Hello, this is the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Thank you so much for watching. Today we'll go through our next two index laws. So previously we learnt two index laws. We learnt that if we multiply bases, we simply add the indices, and we also learned that if we divide bases, we subtract the indices. Now, based on those laws, we can come up with a couple of new laws, and these each involve brackets. So the first law we're going to look at is raising a power to another power. So this type of example will have two powers in it. So let's look at something like 2 to the power of 3, and I want to raise that to the power of 4. So there are two indices or two powers. So I know that if I raise anything to the power of 4, it just means times by itself 4 times. So this would be 2 to the power of 3 times by itself 4 times. But because of the index law that we learnt last lesson, I know that I can write that in index form by keeping the same base and just adding together all the indices. So 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 equals 12. So what essentially I'm doing is I'm adding up this number this many times. And repeated addition is just multiplication. So what I can do to shorten this so I don't have to write it in expanded form is I can just multiply the two powers together. And that is the index law. If you have a power raised to another power, again you keep the same base and just multiply the two powers together. So let's look at a few examples. So let's say I have x to the power of 5 to the power of 4. Don't tell me that's x to the power of 9, because we're not adding the powers, we're multiplying them. So that would be x to the power of 5 times 4, which is 20. Okay, let's say I have something like z to the power of 11 to the power of 3. I keep the same base and just multiply the two powers. How easy is that? Alright, now we'll look at the next index law that we have to go through today. So pause and copy this down if you need it. So let's say I want to look at something like 2 times 3 to the power of 4. Okay, so this is slightly different than the previous example, which was 2 to the power of 3 to the power of 4. So what we do is we can expand. Whenever we say expand brackets, we basically mean write something that's a little longer that doesn't have brackets. So 2 times 3 to the power of 4 means I take this and times by itself 4 times. So that's exactly what I'm going to do here. Now, hopefully you know that it doesn't matter the order in which I multiply things. So what I can do is I can multiply all the 2's together first and then multiply by the 3's, because the order of multiplication doesn't matter. Okay? So hopefully you all know that this is just the expanded form of 2 to the power of 4. So I can write it more simply like that, times by 3 to the power of 4. So what you can see is if I've got a multiplication inside of brackets, so it has to be a multiplication, not an addition, because you know 2 plus 2 plus 2 doesn't equal 2 to the power of 3. It has to be a multiplication. All you do is take the first thing, raise it to that power, second thing, raise it to that power. So let's look at a few examples. So let's say I had x times y to the power of 5, just take the first thing, raise it to the power, take the second thing, raise it to the power. How easy is that? Now let's say it's something like 2y to the power of 5. So I have to raise 2 to the power of 5 and raise y to the power of 5, but usually we don't write it as 2 to the power of 5. We can figure out what that is. 2 to the power of 5 is just 32. So sometimes you might have to mix the index laws. So let's say I had 4x cubed to the power of 3. So I raise 4 to the power of 3, that's just 64. But if I want to raise x to the power of 3 to the power of 3, I need to use the index law that we've just learned, raising a power to a power. So I leave the base and I multiply the powers together. How easy is that? Alright, I'm just going to write a summary of both of the laws on the next slide. Please pause and copy down if you need this. So these are the next two index laws that we're learning about, both of them involving brackets. The first one is the power to a power rule, and the second one is just when you have a multiplication inside the brackets and you raise that to a power. So both of these are based on things that we've already learned. That's why they're true. So just make sure you know them. Thank you for watching. It's been the luckiest maths teacher in the world. Have a great day.